So I talked quite a bit in my previous videos about my issues with the women in Canada and how I think their version of feminism is seriously messed up because they're exactly the same as the men in terms of empathy, if not worse, and yet they still make up the vast majority of people working in fields such as early education, childcare, social work, counseling, psychotherapy, etc., which are not necessarily difficult fields, but normally you would be required to have an excessive amount of empathy in order to be able to do well, like in order to be successful, I guess, in those types of fields. And I've seen quite a few comments from other people in videos such as the one I'm about to share about how the men here are just as responsible for the situation in their country right now because they are excessively weak and enabling pushovers who allow their women to become extremely entitled and horrible human beings.
Incredibly proud to have a partner in my wife Sophie who is extremely committed to women and girls issues, but she took me aside a few months ago and said, okay, it's great that you're engaged and modeling to your daughter that you want her empowered and everything, but you need to take as much effort to talk to your sons, my 8-year-old boy and my 2-year-old, still a little young still, about how he treats women and how he is going to be grown up to be a feminist just like Dad.
So I think it's obvious that masculinity is not a thing in Canada, and it's actually very much frowned upon. It's seen as something that's, like, needs to be demonized at all costs, and I don't think, like, this current Prime Minister of ours doesn't have the slightest clue about the repercussions for this kind of attitude, because it doesn't affect him. He doesn't care because he's just exactly like no different from a woman inside the body of a man, essentially. And I think that's exactly the type of man that is actually, like, idolized in Canada and put on a pedestal more than anything. And they're, like, given a lot more... Their sense of self-worth is grossly inflated by the people around here because they've been brainwashed into believing that this is the kind of person that they should idolize. And I can remember, like, being harshly rejected by guys who are like this in the past, and I didn't think, like, I couldn't believe that they said that they had a lot of other women who were pursuing them, because it seems to me that in a traditional society they would have an incredibly hard time attracting even a single member of the opposite sex who didn't have incredibly low standards. And I guess I was also brainwashed into believing that these are the kinds of people that should be considered, like, the ones who are should be put on a pedestal, because thinking back on it now, it makes me feel so incredibly foolish, even though it wasn't really my fault. I mean, everybody here, I think, is brainwashed into thinking this way when they're growing up, and, like, there are a lot of things that we don't have within our control when we're, like, in our early formative years, which cause us to become, like, perhaps not the kinds of people that we were meant to become. And, like, I just feel like the first time I mentioned a guy, meeting the only guy in Canada that I ever actually liked in one of my previous videos, I was actually put off by him at first because I felt like he's someone who definitely doesn't belong here, because he just seemed way too much like a dominant, assertive, and masculine type of person, and that kind of person is just, like, so totally unheard of around here. And I just, I mean, I think I felt for him because I understood how he was feeling. We're, like, people that were both essentially screwed over by the society that we were growing up in, because we weren't... I was affected by backwards feminism in this country, in the sense that none of the women around us when I was growing up were the slightest bit accommodating in the way that they're supposed to be around vulnerable people, and he was screwed over in the sense that this country doesn't allow, like, men to take control over their women, essentially. Like I said, they're excessively weak, and enabling behavior creates the kind of women that we have to deal with in Canada.
Do you hate political correctness? Are you sick of those feminists and cucks always calling you a privileged cis white male? Are you sick of those SJWs trying to take away your freedom of speech? Do you wear a tinfoil hat to keep out the Illuminati and the Bilderbergers? Are you sick of those pesky reptilians trying to infiltrate us humans?
And it creates people who are insane anti-feminists because they're just so sexually frustrated and starved for any kind of attention from a real man. And it creates people who are willing to go out of their way, like willing to go so far as helping a pedophile. And I feel like American women are able to have a lot higher standards for their men as a result of them not being anywhere nearly as emasculated as they are here by what I call Canadian-style feminism. And I have to say that the encounters that I have had with guys in their country in the past were, like, so much more interesting and just, like, so much more natural. They're so much less awkward than Canadian men.
Okay, so we're here in downtown Toronto, and I'm with my friend Linda, who thinks it's super easy to meet men here. Is that true?
Well, I just came from France, actually, and I think they're pretty attractive and kind of friendly, so I don't really see a problem.
Okay, and that's because Linda hasn't lived in Toronto, so we're gonna take her around the streets and see what it's really like to be here.
So you're from Toronto?
I'm from Russia, but I live here.
Russia?
Yeah.
And you're?
France.
France, so you're all trying to date across borders.
And we're not trying
We're
to
not
date
dating. No.
I'm kidding. All right, I have to go.
No problem.
See you, bye.
Like another bar, like more like
What is it?
chills.
Chills?
Yeah.
Chills?
Yeah.
It's like chill, like relax?
Yeah, relaxed.
Okay.
Really relaxed
Let's go.
environment. I don't know, we
Okay,
got,
so West Lodge is good, right?
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Should we come with you?
I'd recommend this
No,
place,
no.
the Yellow Doors over here. They're
Okay.
pretty good.
Okay,
Oh,
thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Let's wait for
If you guys want to
Jenna,
come, you
right?
can, but he's not allowed to come with us.
Crush Wine Bar. They also have a lot of really good wine.
Crash, this is not open. This one?
It's not open, and West Lodge has a lot of really good wine as well.
Okay. Nice. Thank you.
right.
Also.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Not weird experiences. I just they're just like really like, difficult to approach, or just not like friendly,
Girls.
or just like sensitive. Whatever. Anyway, they're just not the most
Sensitive
friendly.
entitlement.
Yeah. That whole thing.
Be American.
I was wondering, I stay at Paris. Do you want to have sex tonight? Do you?
I mean,
It's free.
with you,
Yeah.
it's free?
Yeah.
You're lying to me.
How old are you?
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Where are you from?
Are you gonna rob me?
No, I'm not gonna rob you. Do you want to have sex tonight?
I do, but I feel like there's some kind of stipulation.
That's the most ridiculous thing in the goddamn world.
Why?
Okay, my dear. I am not, like, I'm a very well-traveled European individual.
Why would I ask you like later? What?
I feel like it's a trap. It sounds too good. It sounds too good to be true.
How does that sound to me?
Give me your number, and
Okay,
I will text
here.
you.
415 666 369. How come you don't want to have sex? Like, I mean, it's an offer. It's free. Like,
Oh, well, yeah. Like, my dear, like, my family's from Moscow, okay? So, like, I understand what you're saying, like, and I appreciate it. And I sort of want to do it.
I want to do it. Why don't you want to do it? Can't get it up?
No, I have a big dick, you know.
You have a big dick. How long is it?
Look at me. Are you kidding me? I'm a fucking, like, Scandinavian German, like, goddamn woman.
How about you?
Stop.
Sex?
Stop. Right now. What you're doing.
Please.
Stop.
Me love you long time.
Stop what you're doing right
Please.
now. Yeah. Oh,
Pretty,
me
please.
love you long time. Me love you long time. Me love you long time. Okay. You're beautiful. You're goddamn gorgeous, my dear. I would fucking fuck the shit out of you. I like you a lot, your body and all that shit, but like, no.
I just want sex.
I love to have sex. I love to fuck bitches. Don't get me wrong. But you're being shady, my dear. You're being shady.